Hi, this is Casey from All Walks of Film, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the Babadook, or more sort of what I took away from it. And this is very spoiler heavy sort of thing. This is really just a discussion for people who have seen the movie. And I've only seen it once, and it was a couple weeks ago, but I know a lot of people have said that the Babadook is about her, or Amelia, the main character, dealing with her grief over the death of her husband, which it is to a certain extent, the most obvious indicators being that the Babadook comes out of the basement where she keeps all the stuff of her, like all the memorabilia of her husband, and of course that the Babadook appears to her occasionally as her husband, or her dead husband. Not to mention the fact that the movie begins with a flashback or a memory or bad dream, of her husband and her husband dying. So, yeah, to a certain extent it's about her grief, but I feel like that's not the major thing she's dealing with. I think that the Babadook is actually more of a conglomeration of all the horrible feelings she feels in general, but mostly directed towards her son, Samuel. And her son obviously is very distressed and difficult to deal with. She's a single parent trying to deal with him all by herself, and obviously people are telling her that he's troubled and he needs therapy and they need special attention and all this stuff, and she's trying to deal with it all on her own. And it almost feels like the Babadook is closer to a symptom of like postpartum depression much later on. Usually postpartum depression happens when a mom takes her baby home and can't deal with a baby, but it's just sort of a similar feeling I got. But I had heard a lot of people say, like, oh, the Babadook kind of looks a little corny with this top hat and all this stuff, and I was like, that is an interesting design. And initially I thought the design was because it kind of looks like lots of objects that are in your house, so it gives you sort of a creepy feeling after you watch it, like you kind of look at everything and you see the Babadook everywhere. But actually, once I thought about it a little bit, with the top hat and sort of this round body and frizzy hair and long fingers, there's a scene in the movie where Samuel is doing magic tricks. He has a top hat, he has the frizzy hair, he has a cape which sort of gives him like this blobbish shape, and he has gloves that sort of accentuate his hand. And he looks like the Babadook, but more importantly, the Babadook's facial expressions in the picture book and in reincarnations, big, like, round eyes and this wide gaping mouth, looks a lot like Samuel when he's throwing a fit, or when he sees the Babadook. There's a scene in the car where Samuel is looking at the Babadook and he's screaming and he's having this seizure, and he looks in his face like the Babadook. And I think that the Babadook is supposed to be this manifestation of everything negative she feels towards her son, which is also why I feel like when the mother and son become closer to each other later on in the film, is why it combats the Babadook. A couple of other things that I feel sort of support this hypothesis is, and when I say like all the negative emotions, I mean, she, uncomfortability, stress, guilt, blame, anger, resentment, like all these horrible things that's taboo for mothers to feel towards their children. Hating your child is pretty unforgivable. Like, you really, that's considered really not cool everywhere. And I don't know, if you did have this child that you just couldn't deal with and you hated being around and you resented, how could you even have an outlet for that? Like, where would that even go? Grief, there's grief counseling. People kind of understand that, you know. But if you hate your child and you can't deal with your child, even as you're trying to be like a good mom, you know, you can't talk to people about that. You can't tell them, like, you don't like your kid. Even if people tell you, in the movie, other people tell her that they can't stand her child, but, you know, she can't say that. She's his mom. But a couple of other things is that her son thinks that, like, he's afraid of monsters. He sees monsters everywhere. And the most difficult time for her to deal with him is bedtime, when she has to read him stories. He doesn't want to go to sleep. He can't go to sleep. He keeps her up. He wants the same stories over and over. You know, she very clearly doesn't enjoy bedtime with him. And I think she has a little bit of resentment, especially with that, because in the movie, I believe they said that she used to write children's stories. So she probably used to have an affection for reading to him and having these stories, and she doesn't enjoy it anymore, and that gives sort of a resentment. And so, lo and behold, Babadook first appears with the Mr. Babadook book that her son finds, and it agitates him, it freaks him out, it makes him more susceptible to this idea of monsters, it makes going to bed impossible, it just makes it all so much worse. But it's just sort of picking at these agitations that she already has. Also, the fact that the Babadook comes out of the basement, she has this shrine to her husband sort of in the basement where she keeps everything about her husband. And the Babadook does come out of the basement after her son goes down there doing his little magic show thing and wrecks the place. She comes down and everything's disturbed and all over the place and stuff's messed up. And I'm sure that she had a lot of anger over that. You know, this was sort of like her sacred space. He wasn't allowed to go in there, and he didn't just go in there, but he wrecked it. And there's no way to get that back. So I think that's a big part of, like, this trigger of how he sort of manifested and came out of the basement. But of course, you know, there's the whole thing of, well, you know, it of course it plays into her grief, not just in being a single parent, but her husband died, getting her to the hospital to give birth to her son. So essentially, in a very twisted way of thinking about it, her son's responsible for the fact that she's a single parent and the death of her husband. How can you, like, you can't, again, it's one of those things you can't say, but how, of course you kind of think that at times when, you know, the Babadook appears to her as her husband, and it's this very sort of seductive, you know, support, you know, oh, I'm here for you, magically your son could just go away. It's not that, you know, she fantasizes about the Babadook violently killing her child. Obviously, she sort of sees herself killing him, but when the Babadook appears to her as her husband, it's just sort of like, oh, well, what if he could just magically be gone, and you have support and love, and I'm here for you, you know, it could all be, and of course that seems very representational of death. Let's just all join together in death. But I think that that's what makes the Babadook so inescapable. You know, you can't get rid of the Babadook because it lives inside her. It's her manifestation. She can't deal with it. She can't talk about it. And it just comes out in this awful, evil way, and it won't go away until, you know, she and her son reach out for each other and sort of start repairing their relationship. Her son says this line of, you know, you don't love me anymore, but I still love you, you know, that really sort of brings it out into the open. And from there, she can start recuperating. You know, she can fight it off and lock it up in the basement and keep it subdued, which is sort of the whole point of the story at the end, is that she has it suddenly the world seems fresher. She and her son are getting along better just because it's sort of all out there now. But it's not like it ever goes away. That's the thing with any sort of emotional issues that you have, is that it's always sort of going to lie underneath. So I do think that this idea of, oh, she's dealing with grief, yes, but I think it's a lot more than that. And I think that's what makes the Babadook actually legitimately scary as a horror film, is that it's rooted in all this just like darkness that she has within herself, and manifests in all these ways that make her feel more and more negative towards her son. Even closer to the beginning of the movie, before you see the Babadook, all these things happen she thinks Samuel's doing, but Samuel says it's the Babadook, where, she has glass in her own food, and Samuel's sort of demonizing him, making him seem even worse than he really is, just because she has to deal with him all the time. And it doesn't really go away until she starts repairing the damage by actually talking about it. And you see throughout the whole film just repression. Like, just constant repression in front of everybody. Except for her son. And she sort of tries to deal with him, but, he's the constant in her life that she can't really escape. But a couple other interesting things, I guess, that I've heard is the idea that, they sort of prophesize in the book that she'll kill the dog, she'll kill the son, she'll kill herself, and there's a news clip from a nightmare that she has where she's in the news clip about a woman killing her son on his 7th birthday, and that's where we leave off in the film, is on his 7th birthday. We don't see the party, we don't see what happens, but it's possible that after sort of where we cut off, where it seems like, oh, happy, everything's sort of repaired, what if she killed her son at a birthday party? Like they mentioned earlier in the film. And that's an interesting theory. I don't know how to substantiate it, obviously, unless in the Babadook book that you can order online, they did mention that there's a little bit more to the story that's not from the book. And obviously I don't know what it is. They don't say, and nobody's going to even get a copy of it until June, just because of how long it takes to manufacture. But maybe there's something in there about the ending, making it a little bit more clarified, or maybe making it more positive. But yeah, that's just sort of what I came away feeling about it, and sort of why. But that's just my interpretation, I guess, for what it's worth. But Babadook was fantastic, and I really want to support Jennifer Kent. Her book, Mr. Babadook, is she's still doing this campaign to get it made and produced, and the initial idea was that there needed to be 2,000 orders for it to get made, and when I checked it maybe about a week ago, it was about 5,000, so that's fantastic. But she says that everyone who orders a copy before midnight Pacific Standard Time on January 19th it's going to be signed and numbered, making it a collector's item, but Jennifer Kent will sign them all. And for a movie book, it's very cheap. It's $80 for hand-bound hardback book with, fine quality paper that's all fully functional and essentially just a replica from the movie. So if you're not too terrified by the idea of even having this thing in your house, which, yeah, that would be kind of scary to just have it on your doorstep. But just give her a little bit of support, even just paying for the rental to see the film or paying for a movie ticket. Every little bit just really helps, because she's still starting out, and it's all she's built it up herself with funding. So just try to give her a little bit of support, because she's made a fantastic start, and it would be great to see where she can go from here. So yeah, and that's about all I have to say, except for one of the 2 best films I saw this year. So definitely felt a lot of positive feelings about the movie, as well as just completely batshit scared. So Signing off. I'll see you next time.